Hello and welcome to Tyrannus Gaming. Today we'll be taking a look at Volt, the unholy love child between Thomas Edison and Alice Brandreth. We will be using 20 times crewman. It will be steel path, the AI will be paused, and the enemy level will be 140. Let's discuss Volt's passive ability. If we take aim at a crewman, you'll notice that we do 221 base damage before any critical multipliers. And if you pay attention to the top right, you'll notice that Volt can increase a special ability which allows him to grant himself up to 1000 flat damage upon shooting an enemy. And if your weapon has innate punch through, you can strike multiple targets at once, getting the most out of this ability. This 1000 damage can and will be multiplied by your critical multiplier, so make sure that your first bullet counts. Moving on to Volt's number 1 ability, also known as Shock. It launches a voltaic projectile that stuns and damages its target, including up to 5 nearby enemies. This ability can and will stun lock the enemy for up to 3 seconds. If you can't kill the enemy, simply use this ability while reloading and run like hell. Volt's number 2 ability, also known as Speed. This allows Volt to run like a very fast boy. And as you may have noticed, at the top right, as we were running around, our damage increase came back. This ability doesn't just increase your movement speed, but it also increases your allies' movement speeds, and it increases your attack speed and reload speed. Let's go ahead and fire off our number 1 with our new damage bonus and see what happens. As you can tell, it did a lot more damage, but as you can also tell, it didn't actually kill anything. And again, that is because Volt's number 1 ability is meant for crowd control, not for simply killing things. Volt's number 3 ability, and the reason why I have a headache after trying to film this 127 times, is Volt's electric shield. Even though it only says Volt deploys an electric shield that blocks projectiles, it has about a dozen other effects that it doesn't actually tell you about. Let's begin by demonstrating, and then I'll show you what I mean. This is how the game intends for you to play. You simply lay it down and avoid projectiles as it will block them. But, fun fact, if you walk up to the shield, you can pick it up. And the shield also provides you a 50% increase in electrical damage. And if you press the action button, you'll simply put the shield down. Now, what I am referring to by having about a dozen effects is that you can lay this down 6 times, and it will increase your damage output by 300% with electrical damage, and it also increases your critical damage by 200%. Whether you have 1 shield or 6 is irrelevant. This critical multiplier affects it, even if you only use 1 shield. Some of you may have noticed that the headshots are notoriously unreliable, And this happens whether you shoot near a corpus, and I suspect it's because either there are terrible hitboxes, or there are defenses and damage mitigation effects that are never told to you. So when you shoot them, make sure you're doing it directly to their face, and not at an angle, or you're going to be using more ammo than you want. Now before we move on to Volt's number 4 ability, let me show you what setup I have for my Rubico Prime. This is my Rubico Prime. As you can see, we only have a 38% critical chance, which means that every 1 in 3 hits is going to do critical damage. As you can see, we have Toxin, which is the reason we're bypassing shields and hitting the corpus heads directly. But in order to get, and effectively, a 5 times multiplier to our 700 damage here, we are going to need to get rid of multi-shot, because only 1 in 5 actually get the second bullet. After equipping our point strike, we have 61% critical chance. This means that just over 1 in 2 bullets are going to do critical chance. This effectively translates to a 2-fold increase in damage. Bolt's number 4 ability happens to do more damage the more enemies that are crowded around him. This is what it looks like. As you can see, it does catastrophic amounts of damage. It is also known as Discharge, and the best part is, if you have this employed, and you fire off your number 1 ability, it will cause your number 1 to do a whole lot more damage, as it's overcharged. As you can see, we did a lot of damage, but I'm sure we could do a lot more damage if that crowd was still here. As you can see, not the glorious of victories, but it gets the job done. I hope you all learned something new today, and if you have any tips and tricks that I may have missed, please feel free to leave them in the comments, as engagement helps quite a lot. I hope you all have a wonderful day.